MG Sandlana. We will not be surprised if, after the failure to pin the Ziribeko massacre on us, that new and trumped-up charges are pressed for whatever ulterior motive by the same dark forces. The hidden hand, unfortunately, manipulates and is seen to be colluding with certain individuals who are members of the South African Police Service. Some of the said service members are known to be affiliated to the Ziribeko faction of the IPHC. We have said this before. Allow me to come to this point of the SEPs at a later stage in this briefing. What we consider to be monumental in our fight against the nemesis of the IPHC in Jerusalem thus far is the reason we have invited you to this media briefing today. It is a matter of record and common cause that at least 43 members of our church were arrested and charged of innumerable criminal charges that sadly included premeditated counts of murder arising from the aftermath of the Ziribeko massacre of 11th July 2020. We were at pains, really at pains and constrained at the time to explain the innocence of our accused members and the absurdity of the fact that members of our church had been arrested as mentioned above, notwithstanding the fact that all the victims of the massacre were in fact members of the IPHC in Jerusalem, not as been purported that those members who were killed were members of the Ziribeko faction. That is not true. The only solace we had at the time was that the court saw through the shenanigans of the third force and immediately granted bail to our members, despite the then vehement opposition to such release. The IPHC in Jerusalem vehemently denied involvement in gruesome killing of 5 IPHC in Jerusalem members in the wee hours of the 11th of July 2020 at Ziribeko branch of the IPHC in Western area. At the time, serious allegations were publicly leveled against the IPHC in Jerusalem, and particularly our spiritual leader, His Grace successor, MG Sandlana. The allegations were widely broadcast in a media briefing that attracted local and international media hosted by the Ziribeko faction of the IPHC based in Ziribeko. We insisted at the time that the accusations were baseless, irrational, and unwarranted. Their accentuating was, and still, none other than to pursue the church ultimate leadership battle at the expense of our father by humiliating and vilifying him and his followers. The agents of evil went to the extent of using crooked connection within the South African Police Service to heap unsubstantiated allegations and to lay fabricated criminal cases. It did not come as a surprise to us that at the height of the incident, the leadership of SEPS, the SA Police Service, at national and provincial levels, with a massive entourage of journalists and TV cameras, went to the Ziribeko faction a day following the massive shooting incident without even any attempt to hear from our leadership. Notwithstanding the public promises of Police Minister Peggy to engage all stakeholders amidst the brutal murder of our members, the minister has to date not made even a single attempt to meet with the IPHC in Jerusalem and hear our side of the story. This is despite several requests and pleas the IPHC in Jerusalem has advanced to both his and Commissioner Ketlastole's offices to give us audience too, enabling us to address this matter and other related issues that emerged long after the 11 July 2020 incident perpetrated by the Ziribeko faction. We expected the minister to at least honor his public commitment and meet all stakeholders, but that he has not done. In the aftermath too, in a widely broadcast media conference hosted by the Secretary of the Council of the Ziribeko faction, Mr. Mpomakwana, and Mr. Abiel Wesi, the spokesperson of the Ziribeko faction, His Grace successor MG Sandlana was projected as a criminal, a thief with the aim of hijacking and overthrowing the IPHC. The diabolical accusation against our father is essentially a ploy from the Ziribeko faction to digress from the actual shenanigans that are happening in Ziribeko. Our father's dignified demeanor and superior presence is, notwithstanding, felt by his enemies, and they know with this with absolute terms. After nearly 2 years of police investigation of the matter and many postponement for that purpose, the matter was set down as final for the 3rd December 2021 in order for the state to finalize its investigation. Despite the opportunity to do so even on the set date, the state still sought a further opportunity to get its house in order, and the court correctly rejected the request. Given that the state was unable to prefer any charges against any of our members, the court struck the matter off the roll. So as we speak, that Zirbeco matter and its subsequent court proceedings, and due to lack of evidence by the police, as we have painfully expressed disregard, it was struck off the roll. So there's no Zirbecom case anymore, and therefore we feel we are vindicated. The lack of evidence by the police in court, or at least to the prosecution, after almost 2 years of court proceedings, has vindicated the IPHC in Jerusalem and our father in particular. He was projected by the Zirbecom faction as the central figure in the leadership battle. The lack of news coverage on such a milestone ruling by the court is perturbing, yet for every unwarranted, untested charge laid by the Serbs, the media, particularly the Sowetan, leads the charge in attacking successor MG Sandlan. We are not surprised, though. Having failed at this project, the perpetrators moved on to other tactics, as we have pronounced previously, on targeting our father and members of IPHC in Jerusalem who are in his council and cabinet by making unwarranted and hasty arrests. One such case will be heard in Pretoria on the 27th of January 2021, and another one in March 2022, both of them. My brother in Christ and a colleague, Mr. Tsepo Puti, will make some remarks in this regard. As I return to the SEPS matter, as I promised you, honestly, we have lost faith in the service of the South African Police Service in as far as carrying out their duty without fear or favor is concerned. The one-sided focus on this and other related members has shown which side, with emphasis now, the captured police are on. There are good policewomen and policemen out there, but there are those that are captured, and it is very clear which side are on when it comes to cases that they handle in regard to the IPHC in Jerusalem and our father. And this is due to the sway of some senior members in the SEPS. To illustrate this point, on the morning of the incident in July 2020, this I'm going to say slowly, the police top brass were present at the scene. Their names are known and were seen by our members that were arrested and others that were present at the scene. We are looking forward to hear during the inquest their account of their roles at the scene. We have always known that very senior police officers were at the scene already when the shooting happened. We hope the prosecution have their statements already in order to assist the process. Other practical examples of what we are talking about are numerous cases of branch invasions by the BGP group between 2018 and 2019, most of them committed in Limpopo. These cases count, among others, 5 in Mashashane village, 2 in Chakuma, 7 in Mokopane, 1 in Libotwane, and 1 in Nebo. As an example, over 15 cases, nothing has happened with those cases. The charges on these cases range from assault, intimidation, theft, housebreaking, now that is church, breaking of church, and damage to IPHC property. The recent ones, and we are not just talking, because wherever we see the shenanigans, we open cases and report, but nothing happens with those cases. The recent ones are the 2 cases of fraud, where attempts were made to fraudulently access funds in the church's frozen bank accounts. We explained at length with regards to attempts that were made to open the frozen church's account. Even some of you, as the members of the media, asked as to exactly this leadership battle, what is it all about? And you suspected that it could be about money. And it is indeed about money for those who are luring for the wealth through the church. One case was opened in December 2020. We are now in 2022, where a fraudulent court order was presented to Absa Bank to get the funds. Nothing has happened with that case. Another case was opened in August 2021, where again another fraudulent court order was presented to First National Bank for the same act. And all these fraudulent cases are done by the leaders of the factions, like I indicated, not us. We are preventing and reporting this fraud, and therefore, hence IPHC. Who is really the IPHC? No arrests, let alone hastily, as it would happen with our father, were made to date despite tangible evidence by the well-known fraudsters. Last month, we never stopped opening cases. Another case of fraud that enlists 5 counts of fraud and forgery in Pretoria was opened, and we are waiting with a bated breath for the arrest of the fraudster. In all these cases, the police have remained utterly useless in carrying out its duties of arresting these perpetrators or transgressors. Our perception of the lip service provided by some of the SEPS members will remain unless they can prove to us otherwise by expediting arrests for transgression committed and as reported. We will change our attitude and perception that has turned into reality of the incompetence and bias of the SEPS members once we see action. We are grateful that justice has prevailed in a fair manner, which indicates to us on the Zirbekom matter, rather which vindicates us on the Zirbekom matter. Subsequent to the striking off of the matter from the roll by the court, our legal team engaged with the NPA to determine the way forward and justice for our deceased and beloved members. Now, it has been reported that the 5 members of the church that were killed belong to the Zirbekom faction. They are not. Those members belong to the IPHC congregating in Jerusalem. And to this effect, we do have in our presence this morning the widows that their husbands were gruesomely killed in that gruesome massacre, as it were. So we have those families here. And members of the media, you are welcome to pose 1 or 2 questions as you may fit to them, and they will relate to you how they have been surviving since the incident, or since the breadwinners and their loved one were killed. We are now placing our trust into the hands of the NPA to open an inquest into the death of our 5 church members. Our plea is that all those that were present at the scene and have the knowledge about the killing of the children of our father must appear before the judge that will be appointed for the inquiry. The leader of the Zirbekom faction, known as BGB, Mr. Leonard Modise, affectionately known as Morena Jacobo by his followers, and all those that made defaming allegations against IPHC in Jerusalem with audacity and confidence must also appear before the inquiry. Mr. Leonard Modise unequivocally placed it on record that he was present at the scene when the crime was committed. We want to hear his side of the story and those of his lieutenants. This is very interesting. If you recall, or rather when you recall, the CRL Rights Commission attempted to mediate this fight amongst the groups that emerged following the passing on of our father of our comforter in 2016. Now, at this briefing at CRL, and I'm saying this so that what I've said here, that he was present, he placed himself on record to have been present. Now, this is how it happened, if you want to double check with CRL. For 3 days in July, we went to CRL for mediation. At one point, then the chairperson of the session on the day said, Here's the program lineup for the day, and this is what we are going to discuss. And then at the end, we are going to discuss exactly what happened on the 11th of July. And then I stood up at that hearing, and I said, no, we can't, because one, the matter is sub judice, and then some of us, or most of us here, we were not there. And then he agreed with me and said, yeah, in any case, there's no need to discuss this matter because all of you were not there. He stood up. He stood up abruptly and said, no, 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 no. We need to discuss this matter. I was there. I was there. So he must appear before the inquest and explain what he was doing there and what he saw. The police top brass who arrived at the scene and made arrests in a very questionable manner must also appear before the death inquiry. As I conclude, we are appealing that justice must prevail for the families that lost their loved ones. As I've said, they are here. And our Father, the Church Council, and the Church is taking care of these families. And you can ask them, they can answer that themselves. The families of the deceased members seek answers and closure. It is painful that after 2 years, and those members were killed in the manner that they were, gruesomely so, and justice has not been done. So these families are seeking closure and that justice is done. And those who did this terrible or terrifying act be arrested. Now, the message from our Father to the IPHC members congregating in Jerusalem and members of the society in general is that our Father will not rest until the killers of his children are put behind bars. Our Father is a spiritual person. I don't know what he means when he says he will not rest. But he said that before. And we can see the outcomes. We are vindicated, but he will not rest. As to whether he will not sleep or he will not, I don't know what he means about that, but he will not rest. He is enduring all the adversity with great fortitude and through the living God, Almighty 101. He assures the children of our Father that he will take down all the creepers and those behind these shenanigans one by one. Allow me, members of the media, to give this opportunity to my brother in Christ, Mr. Tsepo Puti, as the personal spokesperson of our Father, because I've mentioned some of the issues relating to our Father in person to address you further, and we will take questions at the end of his short remarks. I thank you in the name of God Almighty. Priest Mane, any remarks before you hand over to the deputy?
Thank you, President Ndala. I think without any further ado, one wouldn't want to waste time. I think you've made it clear, and what Priest Ndala has covered or maybe left out, the deputy will highlight on the important issues as well. So at this present moment, we'll give the deputy, our Father's personal spokesperson, to outline our Father's perception in terms of everything that is unfolding. Mr. Puti, the time is yours now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Priest. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good morning to you. Welcome to our briefing. The goal of the address from my side is not to detract from the core of this conference, which was to speak about the case of the 42, but it is also just to provide context on where it is that our Father is personally as well, as far as this case and others are concerned. President Ndala has provided extensive background on all of the cases that has been brought against us as the IPHC in Jerusalem. And with this background, he has an admixture of cases that are both from a fraud perspective, and some of them are violent in nature. But there are also cases that has been brought against our father in his personal capacity. And the cases that has been brought against the church, there has been a deliberate attempt to put our father at the center of these cases. The same way as there has been personal cases that has been opened against him, which I will go into detail about. President Dala has elaborated quite strongly on 2 fraud cases that has been opened by the church against the factions that exist within our movement. And it was respectively with FNB and APSA when the attempts were made. And I can say with surety as well from our side, there has never been an attempt to access any frozen assets of the IPHC. The attempt that existed was an attempt where the factional leaders have approached our father and they requested that they access money for the purposes of the running of the institutions which they run. And it is a request that he has denied. And with him denying that, he becomes a stumbling block to many attempts by people that are sent thrones for the purposes of money, not for the purpose of carrying out any spiritual work. And he becomes a strong obstacle that needs to be dealt with by people. What you would know as well is that there is 2 cases currently in front of the courts of law relating to our father. The one case is a divorce case that is hotly contested. His estranged wife left the teachings of the IPHC and has elected to bring a divorce case against him, which was one personal attempt to defame him, one. And we have spoken extensively about this case in our last briefing. And we also spoke about it purely because it was publicized quite strongly in Little Chava. And our response to that as well was quite clear that with any attempt that is brought against our father personally, he is not going to be detracted to execute his personal spiritual duties the way that he should. He will continue to do the work that he needs to do. And amongst others is to heal the sick and provide for the widows that you also see here. Now, when the personal case was brought against him for the divorce, we all know that there is one big case, and the one that was alluded to by President Dala of the 27th of January now. And this case has to do with, they say there is another fraud attempt where he has attempted to kill his wife. Now in this case, the efficiency of the police has come through quite strongly. But from our side, we are asking the question, is it efficiency or is it because it's a case that was brought against him? The speed and the rush with which he was arrested and the media coverage by Sowetan at the time as well on the same case. They have made sure that he's brought in front of courts as quickly as possible, but we don't see the same efficiency in all of the cases that has been leveled against other factional leaders. We don't see the same efficiency with the cases that has been lodged against the actions that has been taken by the other factional groups against us. So it then creates the question for us that does efficiency in the police system just exist in the case of IPHC Jerusalem, or it exists for everyone else? With that being said, is that the question then will become, why is it that our father is then attacked the way that is attacked? President Dala has made it clear that it's about money. The common interest with all of the stakeholders that exist here, it is money. And President Dala has made it clear that there were attempts of fraud, that is one. And there is also attempts to to take ownership of all assets that belongs to the children of our Father. And our Father is resolute to say that spiritual work has nothing to do with enrichment. Spiritual work is work that needs to be carried out without a need to look after self, but it needs to look after those that follow him. So, to his detractors then, therefore, the message that we want to send to them is that the work that our Father does, it will not be diminished by all of the police cases that is brought against him, because his strength does not come from the police cases. He is a spiritual leader, and we don't expect the factional leaders to understand what we mean by spiritual leader. We do not use this term loosely. We use it with clear knowledge that we understand when we say he's the spiritual leader, that he has the ability to act within that environment, and he has the ability to see within dark places. And the message that comes directly from our Father, if I can quote him quite directly right now, is to the detractors and to the people that tries and make sure that they vilify him, they vilify his following, is that, I quote, "The slow walk of the leopard must not be mistaken, and therefore it should not be underestimated. The slow walk is intentional to calculate the accuracy of its attack." So you can be certain that all of these matters that has been brought against us, they shall be settled, and we shall be vindicated. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Mr. Puti. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've all heard that which we have not heard before, and I hope we are now updated mostly with what has been transpiring at the IPHC as a whole. Now, at the present moment, we are going to take questions, Q&A. If there are journalists here, media houses, would like to render questions to our spokesperson, this is the time to do so. Okay, without any further ado, Mr. Manova from ENCA, and that would be Mr. Robinson from Power FN. Yes, and Mr. Arun Dube from Daily Sun. Yes. In that order, gentlemen, can you please pose your questions? And yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
No, we start. Excuse me, Mr. Aaron. We'll start with Mr. Manova.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. My question is about one of the issues that you've raised. You've raised serious allegations about the South African Police Service and how the cases that are against Jerusalem faction, they seem to be dealt with, and those that of other churches are not dealt with. So are you in essence saying that the police themselves are captured when it comes to dealing with issues?
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Robinson, yes.
Yes, the question that I have relates to the widows that are here. As a church, are you perhaps planning a civil litigation on their behalf? Because these are people that have been affected by what happened in 2020. The second question is about how these battles have affected the administration of the church. Have we reached the point of no return? Have we passed the point of reconciliation as the entire church?
Thank you very much. Mr. Tube?
Yes, I just want to ask about fraudulent money. That was
Come again?
to ask about fraudulent money.
Oh, yes.
From the two benches outside FND.
Yes.
I just want to know how much was it and when was it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the answer, we can move the mics there so we can be audible then.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Yes. That logistic, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Mtunu, let me respond to you this way, and I'll give you the answer. On the 12th of July 2020, the police minister, the commissioner, national commissioner, Mr. Kehlas Tole, went to the Zerbecom faction. And while they were there, they promised to engage all stakeholders. To date, they haven't. That's one. Number two, 2-3 months later, after that incident in Zerbecom, the BGP faction, in actual fact, there's a case in the Pretoria High Court where they invaded the Libotlwane branch of the IPHC in Jerusalem, in Northwest, right? After the mediation attempt by the CRL, and after they committed to the resolution following that mediation attempt, they did the very same act that they purported or they thrown at us. They did it in Libotlwane, right? We wrote about 2-3 letters to both the police minister and Commissioner Kehlas Tole. They never responded, right? So what would you say? I mean, being the police minister, the community relies on you for safety and security and for justice to be done, and you are quiet. Obviously, our perception is that he's captured by the forces that are against us. That's our perception. Whether it's true or not, that's for him to explain. But where we are, we believe he is. And in terms of civil litigation, Mr. Robinson Ngola, I don't know how I should emphasize this to you. The families are here. Justice needs to be served, right? As they are destitute, like we have indicated. Our father, the council, and the church has been supporting them since the passing on of their loved ones, right? Then on a question of a civil matter, then you are raising something that even them, they can't. Remember, they are church members. We assist where we can. It's up to them whether they want or not. But this, because it was a case, so an inquest, obviously is by default, right? People were dead, police were there, it was a court matter. Now an inquest has to happen. So at least for them, the inquest will address the issue, right? And as to whether after the completion of it, what will happen is a matter that we will see when that happens. As for the 43 members that were arrested, really it's up to them. There's one, he was not an accused though, who opened the case, by the way. Immediately after that incident, he opened a case at Beggersdal. Yeah, in Beggersdal. His car was bent, he survived. If you saw the pictures for those who were bent and the members that died as a result of being bent, he also survived. He was crawling from his car got bent, right? He opened the case, nothing happened. And he knew who the perpetrators were. So nothing has happened today. So it's up to them. But we're not sure how they are, but you'd know, Robinson. I mean, if for wrongful arrest and everything, I will sue either a state or something else, but that is individual. The church is not going to be involved as an institution, but it's up to them as individual to open civil cases against the state. And then the interesting one, these battles. What I can assure you, Robinson, is watch the space. Probably the next briefing that we'll call, it will be about the leadership battle as it is known by now. Probably the next few weeks, we will start to address as IPHC in Jerusalem, because what we have realized, the other factions benefit out of this prolonging leadership battle when nothing happens. That's what we have discovered, and we are sure of it. They benefit, and it's good when nothing happens. So we are now taking charge. We'll make sure that as to how the outcome will be, we don't know yet, but we will take charge and initiate that this case come to an end. As I'm saying, in the next few weeks, watch the space. Probably the next media briefing, it will be about the leadership battle. And then on Mr. Dube's question about the frozen bank accounts, In APSA, it happened in December 2020 on the 17th, to be specific. They went to Durban and they sought a bogus, not bogus, but that lawyer in Durban is known for being bogus. They went, that lawyer went, I don't know how, they drafted and prepared a fake court order. They sent it to APSA. And then APSA sent our lawyer a letter to say, there's a court order. If you don't respond in an hour, I'm going to release the money. It was about 116 million, right? If you don't respond in an hour, I'm going to release the money. Our lawyer responds and say, whoa, wait. We've been saying all along, here's documentation, you can't release the funds. These are the procedures and everything. Who is this person? Then when he started to realize that indeed this is not the case, then APSA went to the court. And then what they did, they even lied about the judge who was adjudicating the case. Then when our lawyer inquired about the court roll on that day, there was no case number or case like that. In actual fact, it is the registrar of the High Court that opened the case. We didn't know that they opened the case, and we opened the case as well. So there are two cases against that court fraud. Nothing has happened. In August last year, there was an attempt in the FNB account. It is about plus minus 18-20 million rand, right? So we were also alerted. It was even worse. They did fake constitution, fake resolutions, fake court order to access. Lucky enough, the fraud department of FNB saw that, and they opened the case. We submitted a statement of that fraud case. So you should ask yourself, we are always stopping and trying to close all these cracks. Why are they not doing that? So I hope I've answered you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before we continue, just to add to what President Ndala has said, for a lack of a better word, amongst the three so-called faction leaders, it's only our father who hasn't approached the court. I'm talking in terms of the leadership battle. It's only our father who hasn't approached the court to impose, whereby he's supposed to be regarded as a leader of IPHC. Both of the leaders have actually approached the court to verify or maybe to seek adjudication whereby they could be regarded as leaders. But contrary to that, after they've made applications, none of them have followed suit into their applications. So like President Ndala was saying, it suits them well that the leadership battle or the leadership case is now standing still. So it clearly shows you that our father knows his stance with the church. That's why he hasn't opened any case in the court to prove himself as the leader of the church. But both of the leaders have done so. Just to clarify on that, Mr. Manova, I think you wanted to ask another question. Or it's Penuel.
Yes,
from Sowetan. All right.
You are known,
yes,
Penuel.
yes, you are known.
And then I think.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just get clarity. One, is there still a matter that is before the court that's relating to the leadership battle?
Yes.
If there is still one, what is the status of that case?
Right.
Number two, the mediation by the CRL, what has come out of it? Is it complete? And what is the process with that mediation?
Sure.
The last question is about the court. Can you just clear, because your lawyers were not willing to talk to us about why the matter was struck off the law?
Yes.
Was it because of a lack of evidence? Can you just clear that one?
Sure. All right. Leadership battle.
I think it's just a matter that I've concluded talking about Penuel, but then maybe President Ndala will clarify it further.
Yeah, so where it is, what happened is very quick. It was set before the court in June 2016, and then Justice Kolapen at the time tried to mediate and set up an executive committee to continue with running the church and so forth. And interestingly, that is why I'm saying this is going to be interesting. Leonard Modise, right, deposed to an affidavit supporting his brother that his brother, he is the one who is anointed. They went together to where they were congregating. They moved away from Zilbercom at the time because we were all there. Then they went to Springs, right? That was Mr. Tsepiso Modise and Leonard Modise. They were together. There are testimonies where Leonard Modise, before their congregation, says, my brother is the one, he's anointed. And in addition, it deposed to an affidavit, right? But after I think he tasted the wealth of the money from the congregation, then he started to say, in actual fact, he is the one that is anointed. Then he went to congregate in Lenasia, right, south of Johannesburg. So Tsepiso left Zilbercom to congregate in Springs, and Leonard went and congregated in Lenasia. Hence the factions or splinters, right? Then 2017, 2018, 2019, then Leonard filed an application to say, or an application to intervene in the matter. But you should ask yourself, you know, I'm begging you, Penwell, and all other members of the media, and just look at this very interesting contradiction. Mr. Leonard Modise, already where I'm sitting, has a case of perjury because he lied under oath. He deposed to an affidavit that his brother is a leader. Then he goes and file an application on the same matter that he is a leader. Come on, even when you are blind, come on. That's a serious contradiction. Now, because of that intervention, then initially it was Justice Kolapen who tried to consolidate all these cases. Then it went for case management. Then it went to Judge Poteril, and then that's where it is. In about May 2020, just around that COVID, then that's where it ended, right? But because of COVID and everything else, we let it go. But as I'm saying now, we are on top of it. Before the dawn or the end, yes, the dawn of the second quarter of this year, we will definitely address you on a matter of leadership, where it's going and what is going to happen about it. But in as far as the court cases that were filed, it was under case management. The last person to have sat with it is Judge Potter in about May 2020. But that things are going to turn now. Zochi Gizinto in 2022. And then CRL. Shem, CRL tried, yeah? Leonard Tsepiso did not come to the mediation. Leonard came, but I don't want to make you witnesses, but some of you were there. They were not serious about that process, as it were. Nevertheless, the process is incomplete. What happened is I think you can go and ask CRL. They will also explain their side of the story. After that mediation, we expected the second round, you know, according to your own process. Even now, we haven't got the report of the mediation process even. But then they invited all the individuals, yeah, so church leaders, including our father. So all the factions, our father, and Tsepiso Modise as well. And there were additional people who did not attend the mediation process, claiming to be the leaders. But that invitation came as they are inviting family members. And obviously, because as you would know, the other factions, they regard the church as family. But the invitation from CRL said, let all family members come. And then we refused. We said, this is not about family. It's about the church. So we can't come to that invitation because we did not come to CRL for a mediation on family matters. We came on church matters because the church is not, doesn't belong to the family. So the process is incomplete, Mr. Dlamini. And then, like we said, Babu Penwell, right from the beginning, the police, even the IO, I think cracked under the cross-examination of our senior advocate, senior counsel at the time, to say, I have no evidence. So, like we were saying, right now we just said, when the shooting happens, when those people died, the police were there. That's what we said. So they did what they did, like I said, to digress from what the shenanigans that they are doing there, because they don't want our father at all. I mean, if you can go to Google now and Google things, the insult held against our father, vilification and embarrassment and all that, they want him out of the way. So they will do all things. So the case is struck off the road due to lack of evidence. But that's part one. Part two, we want the killers of the children of our father to be arrested. They must be arrested. So that case, in a form that it was brought to the court, it's done. But then now it goes for an inquest. So the death of those 5 members, justice must be done.
Thank you, President Dala. Any further questions, ladies and gentlemen of the media? Yes, thank you, sir. That would be name?
Chekwani Tladi from UTV News.
Chakwani Tladi.
Chekwani Tladi. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Tladi, you may proceed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We understand that the feud or the fighting within the church is not the first one. I think you correct me if I'm wrong. In 2020 or 2019, there were also crossfires at Jerusalem. Yes, which followed by the one in 2020, which killed people in Zebekon. What is it that can be done as the church to resolve this? Because as much as you said that you know what is the fight for, which is the money, and I believe there is a way that you can deal with it also to avoid situations like this happening again, because we don't know what are those people planning going forward. We might end up losing more people if we don't take care of this situation. What is it that you are planning to do to avoid that? And I'm sure you'll also maybe agree with me to say the founders of the church will not be happy with what is happening, because they didn't found the church to be in so much news, in so much fights and whatnot. What is it that you're planning to do as the church going forward to avoid this?
Okay, I think first of all, what I can tell you is that the violence, as it was in the beginning, has actually died down, to be honest with you. Maybe people were caught in a sense of euphoria that they couldn't understand. You know, religion is a very emotional and a spiritual thing where people are overtaken by certain spirits if you don't believe, you know. But once people have come down to their senses, they tend to realize what wrong that they have done, without even the church taking any stance yet. I can assure you that the level of violence that you have experienced before with the church will not surface again. So that is one thing that we are sure of. Also, because with the help of God, as the church being the spiritual home for all, as it is being a spiritual home, also our Father being a spiritual leader, we have been assured of the fact that the type of violence that we have experienced before will not take place again. And given the record and the time of the incidents that had happened before, even before our Father ascended on the throne, we can clearly see that the level of violence has actually died down. So I'm not saying that we would not do much, but naturally so, automatically so, the violence has died down because of intervention that is from the higher above and spiritual. I hope I make sense as a priest. This is how we look at it from. I think if you take over from there, please.
Sure. Yeah. Then let me add, and then the deputy to add as well. I think you meant to say 2018, but in Jerusalem there's never been any incident as such. But it was not an incident, but there was forceful entry of the very same PGP members attempted. So, but in Limpopo and many other branches that I mentioned, over 15 in particular in Limpopo. I mean, this thing, by the way, that doesn't happen only in South Africa. We have presence in Botswana and Lesotho. In Lesotho, the very same BGP group, the Silver Confession, went and invaded a branch there, you know, but unfortunately they got their lunch, what they needed to receive for invading that. So in Botswana, and that is recent. By the way, there's court cases that are happening there as a result of the same thing. It's the very same PGP. Like Priest Mane said, fight for spirituality will not result in the fights that are here. The fights that are here is about assets and wealth. That is why our response to that, of course, as people who believe in God, we call for the high power to be with us and give us strength in this. But at the same time, because these are acts of criminality, hence we go to the police. But the police are disappointing us. Because between 2018 and now, the quietening down of this violence, I mean, is enlightenment, so to speak. People are beginning to realize which way is which, in a way. That is why we are saying with authority, when it comes to leadership, it will get to where it's supposed to go without any violence. Without any violence.
I think I just want to add, without validating what the priest has answered upon. I think the point that you made was that it is not the first time that a shooting happened. So I want to agree with that, but I want to factually say that President Ndala made it clear how the factions started. He spoke of Lenasia and he also spoke of Springs. So what has happened on the 27th of October, an invasion happened at Zirbokom where we were congregating. And when that invasion happened, that's the time, I think it was on a weekend, and then the Thursday as well, which was the 1st of November, when the Men's League of the Church tried to go and congregate at Zirbokom from Jerusalem at this point in time, but at the time they were not from Jerusalem, they were from Zirbokom. They were shot at. So that is the first shooting that was perpetrated against us. 2020 is the second shooting. So I just wanted to factually put that into context. The second point that you have made was, is there no attempt that can be made to solve the problem to avoid the issues that are there? President Ndala has explained that there has been attempts and they have failed dismally, inclusive of the CRL process. But from where I'm sitting, I'm saying the suggestion that we can make is that if they can follow our father's leadership, which is that he focuses on leading those that believe in him. And when he does that leadership, he did it from a zero base. He has made no attempt to access money that is frozen. He let the legal process take its course. If they can do the same, then I do think that will go a long way in giving the legal process a chance, and it will also go a long way in making sure that no one is seen as an obstacle to stop them from doing anything, and it will also go a long way in not approaching police to get rid of our father. His approach is the most sustainable approach. That's what I want to suggest.
And in addition to what he's saying, to allow the law to take its own course, it's respect of the law. One such case is our property in Cape Town. The court ordered that that property belongs to IPHC when the family wanted it to belong to them. And they forcefully went to congregate at that property. And I mean, and the fight ensued as it did. But had they respected the law, at the CRL we agreed that each and every group will congregate where they are, unless it is law that ordered something, be it, I don't know, a property doesn't belong to you, the vehicle doesn't belong to you, you don't have to stay in that place. If that happens, it must be because of an order from the court of law. But they are not respecting the law. So most of these things happen because there's transgressions. So that's why they happen. Otherwise, we will allow the courts to proceed with the leadership battle, and then pending its finalization, everyone else must congregate where they are with peace. So that's what we are doing to try to avoid all these fights and conflicts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once more, are there any other questions, or can we cease the media briefing as it is? Any concerns, anything? I think we've come, I've heard that there's a request to interview one of the finalists, so.
Oh, okay. Is there a request? Yes, you are more than welcome.
Yes.
You are more than
You are more
welcome.
than welcome.
Yeah. And once obviously it will be outside the briefing, right? All right. When you are done, we are not bad people, we are good people. We are taught to welcome visitors. After the briefing, there are refreshments served. You can go and help yourself get your blood sugar levels up so that you can get to your next assignment. And thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you in the next hot media briefing.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then